Hi, everyone. My name is Mike, and I'm the CEO of DroneDeploy. And welcome to our session today on next level digitization. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you to Procore for having us. And thank you to Matt and Ian, two of our customers at DroneDeploy, for joining us to talk about how they're using our product and they leveraging drones and 360 capture to drive their company forward. First, some quick intros. I said, my name is Mike. I'm one of the three founders of DroneDeploy. We started this company in 2013, and we've had an amazing ride working with many of the largest construction companies across the world. You're going to hear an intro from Ian and Matt, so I won't take that away from them. And you would have seen a lot of construction there. We are the construction market leader in the drone space. We have customers across over 200 countries, and they're doing tons of activities, over 1.5 million flights a year. In fact, a fun stat is that if DroneDeploy were an airport, we would be the busiest airport in the world by a factor of 2 based off takeoff and landings. Those customers are doing all manner of things, everything from energy, agriculture, obviously construction. In fact, construction, as I said, we're the biggest in the space. We have over 25% of the ENR 400 using us today. I'm going to skip a little bit into the future. So you've seen what you can do currently. You're going to hear from Matt and Ian about the value they're able to leverage from drones, from DroneDeploy, from 360 capture data today. But I'm going to just kick off and talk a little bit about the future. And one thing, I think this is the thing that at DroneDeploy, we've been really working hard at and created a bit of a competitive advantage on, is that you've got all this data being produced by all these tools, but that data is not that useful if it's just on a hard drive sitting in the corner, or you're not extracting full value if it's only on one person's computer. And what we do is we enable you to capture all that data very simply, whether it's from a drone, from a 360 camera, from a mobile device, even from a ground robot, and pipe that all up into the cloud through a seamless process where it can be processed into a digital twin. You can inspect it, you can annotate, you can measure, you can share that across the organization to your subcontractors, to your owners, so everyone can be on the same page on exactly what's happening. In addition, of course, we're here at the Procore conference. That data can be put into the places where other people in your organization will be able to access it. And so we have about 80 integrations with lots of different software providers. In fact, I would say the Procore integration is probably our best. So that's what we have today. And that's really the thing that's actually kind of new to the market. Really, since this year, you've been able to get all your reality capture data into one place in DroneDeploy. But things are moving forward. We're always trying to innovate and provide a better experience. And the thing that's next on the roadmap is for all this data to be captured in an automated way. And this is where you're really going to see the true value of reality capture being extracted. Some of you might have heard of or seen of drones that are in a box. They're actually docked. They can be launched on a schedule. Another thing you might have seen is these robotic quadrupeds, these dogs like Spot, where they can be automated. They have a little kennel, so to speak, where they can automatically charge and be operated from a schedule. And over the next 5 years, we think that the majority of reality capture data is going to be captured by these devices that are fully automated. So you can imagine arriving at your job site every morning where the drone has already flown at dawn. The ground rover has already walked through every room in the building and captured all the data. So when you have your site stand up in the morning, you have fresh data as to the exact state of your site and where work needs to be done. One of the challenges of that is if you're going to get data every single day, you're not necessarily going to want to look at every single photo, every single 3D model. And so we're putting a really big investment, and the whole industry is putting a big investment into machine learning. How do we extract insights automatically, classifying every single pixel in such a way that we can identify every asset, we can identify change over time, we can understand discrepancies. So the future of reality capture is going to move away from understanding a photo or an inspection and move towards an insight that is delivered on a schedule directly to your phone or your work list of what to do today because of the reality capture data. So there's a long way to go on that. It's just starting. We just bought a robotics automation company actually this year. So you're going to see more in this space. It's becoming tangible. We have customers leveraging this technology. And so you can expect to see that over the next couple of years, your job sites leveraging this automation and this AI in this single reality capture product. But I wanted to transition now from that future, what you can expect from this industry and from software providers, to the current, and to hear what Ian and Matt have been doing at Agnes and how they've been using drones, drone data, 360 data to do an incredible number of use cases to solve problems across their business and create value and competitive advantage for Agnes. So I'll hand over to the two of them now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mike, and to your team at DroneDeploy. And thank you to Procore as well for inviting us to be a part of their event. My name is Matt DeBasio from Agnes. We are a construction management firm from Philadelphia, PA. Our annual volume is about 150 million. So in our market here in the Philly region, we're considered maybe a mid-sized firm, certainly not the largest company, as we do have some of the national players in our market, but we're not a small company either. We work mainly with institutional clients. Our two primary market sectors are healthcare and higher education. And within those sectors, we work on a variety of different project types. So for healthcare, we do anything from new patient care and treatment facilities, urgent care, imaging suites, medical research labs, to administrative spaces or medical office buildings. And on the higher education side, also pretty wide ranging, new classroom spaces, laboratories, multimedia spaces, and even student housing or residence halls. So I've been with Agnes for a little over 16 years. I started here in 2005. My official title and what it says on my business card is project estimator. So I spend about 80% of my time in pre-construction. However, I'm also, I guess, considered that guy here at our company where I'm very interested in technology and what it brings, not only to the company, but to the industry. And so I'm constantly researching new tools and processes to implement here that can help us deliver better projects, cheaper, faster, and at higher quality for our clients. I am a licensed FAA Part 107 UAV pilot. I did the first flight here at Agnes circa 2016. And it wasn't too long after that he joined our team, and he brought another level and some expertise and skill in this initiative.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ian Larson. I'm a project manager with Agnes. I come from over 20 years of construction experience. The first 20 years have been in golf course construction and design. And I've been a licensed pilot for about 7 years now with the FAA. And at Agnes, I'm focusing on primarily their medical and academic clients. So a little history about our drone program at Agnes was, as Matt said, he kicked everything off with drone documentation with video and pictures for our construction projects. And then in 2017, I joined the company, and for about 3 or 4 years up to that point, I had gotten in early on drone technology on construction sites with mapping and 3D modeling using drone technology at that time. And in the past 6-7 years, it has skyrocketed in how advanced it's become. And honestly, I didn't ever think that after the golf construction industry, I'd be able to use that again. But when I came to Agnes, we had a project at Temple that we were pre-construction with. There was some talks about drone technology with it. And I said to him, look, I've been doing this for years now with mapping and modeling. And for this project, I think there's a really good use for this project. And that's kind of how it got kicked off with DroneDeploy and Procore. You know, immediately I started looking into some software with Matt. And after having used other software programs for this, we immediately went with DroneDeploy because of their really incredible integration with Procore. So that was, as soon as I saw that integration with Procore, I was like, this is absolutely what we need to go for with our company's projects.
You know, some of the biggest areas of risk that we're all pretty familiar with at this point is that the construction industry, number one, has serious problems with maintaining schedule and budget. We also have very high levels of disputes and litigation. We work in a very litigious industry. And a lot of those problems in execution, schedule overruns, budget overruns, and disputes come from miscommunication from the planning phase all the way through field operations. And one of the ways that we can mitigate risk is to improve our records and documentation on the project, right? Capturing what's actually happening and when, and then using that as a mitigation tool. One of the other things that we like to talk about or think about when we're implementing tools is just the overall project lifecycle, right? So how can the data that we're capturing or this new tool or process that we're proposing be used throughout the lifecycle in a more holistic fashion, right? Like we're not looking at just one aspect or one period in the project lifecycle. We're looking at it from a complete upstream and downstream data flow from the early planning and pricing phases and pre-construction all the way through closeout and handover to the owner. So what drones and reality capture, and specifically the DroneDeploy platform integrated with Procore, allow us to do is a number of different things throughout that project lifecycle. From the takeoffs and bidding aspects, since I spend most of my time in pre-construction, that's one of the first things I tried to think about and looked at in terms of value add for this tool in this process. Ian had mentioned his project at Temple University. There was several other projects going on right around the same time that I started to tinker around with use cases or value propositions for the DroneDeploy platform and drones and reality capture in general. One of the best examples I could think of, aside from Ian's Temple project, which was just getting off the ground at that time in the pre-con and planning phase, we had a roof replacement at another higher education client here locally to our region. And for me, roof replacements, it's almost one of the best examples of drone use that I could think of, right? So we're able to get really accurate data, much more so than, say, Google Maps or satellite view, which a lot of people use in our industry. We essentially created our own Google map or satellite view, but in much, much higher detail and much more usable, right? But beyond that, we don't have to send humans up to the roof to climb around in a somewhat dangerous environment, or in this case, the project happened over the summer. Nobody wants to be up on a roof on a 96-degree day. But that roof project was really sort of what proved out the value in pre-construction, right? So we were able to gather the data that we needed much faster and in a much safer way than we normally would have. We were able to identify areas of work that were, I thought, critical to the overall scope of the project, but weren't necessarily documented well. Curb replacements and so forth for mechanical equipment and duct runs. And all this information ultimately led to a better, more complete proposal from our side to the client. And when we got to the table to discuss our bid proposal, we also were able to use that data in a visual sense to communicate exactly what we were doing and when, from a logistics and safety standpoint, to talk about those areas of scope concern that weren't documented well. And overall, it was extremely effective, to the point where I think the client was so impressed. I think they jokingly asked if they could use the drone imagery and the 3D model that we had created for our presentation with our competitors during their scope reviews. And ultimately, we won the project. And so that was sort of the best example that I could think of from the early days in pre-construction for value add. I also think it's really important from a risk management standpoint to document existing conditions really, really well. So we have to know what we're beginning with in order to put together a solid plan to where we're going and what the proposed outcome of the project is. So the existing conditions versus what we're doing currently on site through the planning phase, extremely important. It's also a really great way to determine responsibility as far as scope delineation. It's not always clear from documentation, drawings, specs, who owns what. There's several crossover areas, and one of our jobs as estimators in pre-construction is to determine who owns what scope, right? And a visual communication tool like drone data, whether it be video, photo, or 3D models from photogrammetry, is a great way to share with bidding subcontractors and to really clearly communicate who owns what from a scope standpoint.
So yeah, as Matt was saying, one of the very first things we do for a project with our drone program is to get the existing conditions of what's on the ground at the time before we break ground. That's very important for the project life cycle, just as documentation on our end, and to begin communicating to the design teams and the client of what the existing conditions are, and just to, it's almost as an insurance policy where, this is what the actual site was before we came on site. And that's where it really begins with the improved project visibility throughout the design team and the client. We get the existing conditions of the site, and then we start distributing the maps, the models, and the daily photo updates to the entire team. And just to go through some of the tools that we have when we do our maps, is to number one, measure area. These are scalable maps, and as you can see, one of the great tools with this is reducing rework and settling disputes. Throughout the life cycle of a project, there's always going to be a dispute, like if it's with a township or a city, where they're going to say that we, during the project, had ruined some of the asphalt on the road. Well, I've got maps throughout the life cycle of the project to show whether we actually did have to, redo some of the road work for them. Another great tool, especially with the Procore integration, is the scalable map and the overlay. To be able to go into our drawing set within Procore and to overlay any drawing from that drawing set onto the map, it, to me, is invaluable. It's one of the greatest things, one of the best advancements I've seen since I've got into drone mapping 7 years ago. Earthworks and orthorectified mapping. So orthorectified mapping is a mapping media where it's taking hundreds, if not thousands, of pictures of your site and tying those together. That's what's creating your orthorectified map. It takes perspective out, and with it also being tied to the GPS coordinates of where each picture is, that's where we're able to develop our 3D models as well. So with this type of documentation, there's a lot of reduced project risk. We're able to settle any kind of disputes. We're able to communicate throughout the entire project team on a daily basis of what the actual conditions on site are. A lot of time right now with COVID, we are working remotely, and it's a great tool to distribute to the project team of what's going on site without having people on site all of the time, to give them that visualization. So at Agnes, we work a lot with lean project management, and I think this plays into the entire lean methodology. Be able to efficiently communicate with the project team what's going on site at that time, and it's not only pretty pictures and videos, it's actual scalable maps and 3D models that you can extract data from. And then with the 3D modeling, we're able to produce elevation maps to help with anything on the civil side. When we have our civil subcontractors, if they need a quick read on a grade, on an elevation, a spot elevation, just to confirm and verify, we're able to do that immediately for them. And with having ground control points set up, it is survey grade data that we're giving them that they can truly rely on. Cut and fill maps, again, something that I use a lot with our civil subcontractors. Again, with GCPs, we're allowed to give them data that they can really rely on with any spot elevations, cut fills, grading, anything they need outside of the building itself. Measuring volumes, another great tool with this this is one of our aha moments, was when we need to verify volumes of the subcontractors, where they'll give us a number and a dollar amount to do a specific, if it's an ad to the project, like, well, it's going to cost this much. Well, based on what? This volume? And they're like, yeah. We're able to verify volumes with our subcontractors, and we can also relay this information to the engineers. Almost weekly, I'm verifying something for our engineering teams in the project. It's quick, it's easy, and it's reliable. When it comes to lean project management, one of the key things to it is ever-flowing communication up and down with everybody. And this past year, we've taken our drone program to the next level with the 360 walkthroughs, where architects, engineers, they might not even be in the same area, let alone the same state. So the 360 walkthroughs have been an amazing tool to have, to walk the architects or the engineers or even the client through the inside of the project. We can map and model everything from the air, but now we're taking it inside our buildings, where you don't have that same visibility from a drone. So I like to have this ready for all of our major owner architect meetings, where if an issue comes up within the building that you can't see from the air, we can literally walk everybody through the building and go to that specific point. And not only that, but we can create a punch list for items completely remote. By walking through, if an architect or an engineer sees something in the walkthrough, with Procore's integration, we can create a punch list right then and there while they're in a different state. So it's very efficient, it's reliable data, and it helps with the success of the project, and it really helps with our lean project management. Daily progress photos, another major form of communication within the project. I like to do these daily, not only for our own documentation, but for communication and just for an ongoing record of everything throughout the project lifecycle. Within this screen right here at Temple, this was one of the projects we did for them, where we built a steel structured lobby building that went over an outdoor courtyard. And after all the steel was up, I did an inspection flight where I was going up to every piece of steel. And what you can see here is the moment connections that I wanted to make sure that we had documented. This was a very complex, because it was almost like a saddle shaped roof. So there's a lot of moment connections, a lot of weird angles, nothing was consistent. And I wanted to make sure that before we started enclosing the building, that we had all of these connections documented. And this also played well with our third-party inspector too. They loved this. The third-party inspector would do their inspections and give a report, and we were able to complement that report with these photos to really drive a narrative of this is what each comment was referring to within the report. Fixed progress photos. It's another aspect that I love to do when I'm setting up my project. Is I like to have the fixed areas of where the drone's sitting at an altitude and a position and an angle of the camera, so that we're taking daily photos of in a fixed position, where it's, if we're in a project where there's no surrounding buildings or anything that we could put a GoPro to for a time lapse, the drone actually does that for us, where we can create our own time lapses through these fixed position photos.
So regarding the idea of quality assurance or quality control, there's, I think, a couple of really important points. One of the other things that he mentioned was the frequency in which we're able to do this. Because we have aerial capabilities, and because we have interior capabilities now with 360 cameras, we're really able to collect data from the job sites on very much a daily basis and throughout the entire project lifecycle, right? It's through all phases, starting with my team in pre-construction in the planning phase, all the way through, he mentioned punch list. We also like to use these tools in sort of a pre-punch fashion, right? Where as we go to ultimately reduce the number of punch items at the end of the job when we're ready to close out and deliver the keys to the owner.
Okay, so one of the tools that we use with DroneDeploy and Procore is our virtual site inspection tool. And that's where we can go into our orthorectified map and model and actually pinpoint an area and create a punch list item from that, and also generate an inspection list of items on site that you can see from the air. And another great aspect of this is not only the documentation, obviously, during the life cycle of the project, but being able to document things that are going to get covered up. And in this screen, with it being scalable, overlaying the drawing set, creating punch list items, communicating these things to the design team and the client. In this screen, you know, we're about to pour a concrete slab for the foundation of the lobby that we built for Temple. And I had the hydraulic tubing for the heated floor. And this was one of the biggest things that, you know, it's stuff like this that it's going to get covered up. You're never going to see it again, but it can always go wrong in the future. So if there's anything that would ever go wrong with the hydraulic tubing heating this floor in the future, we would have an as-built created on the scalable map.
So I really think that a lot of the examples that we've shown today, the projects that we're actively using these tools on, were really good examples of how we've attempted to achieve those business objectives of reducing risk, delivering higher quality projects, adhering to our philosophy of lean, right? So better, faster, more efficient, safer. I think that these have all been really good examples of how you can use a platform like DroneDeploy for reality capture, in conjunction with a platform like Procore for overall project management and project communication to effectively achieve those objectives.
Yeah, I agree with that, Matt. And, you know, it's pretty exciting right now with the technology going on. I look at this as like the industrial revolution of the 1920s right now, where the bell curve of technology and how fast and how great it's being developed is amazing. And I think it's very important with the construction industry. I knew that drone technology was a perfect fit for when I was in golf course construction. And I wasn't sure if it was going to be a fit in commercial construction like we're doing when we're doing buildings. But as soon as we started this with the Temple project, I was like, this is a perfect fit, and we need to really bring this to the company. So, you know, it's going to be exciting. I think with Agnes looking to the future, it's, you know, we're going to keep driving the mapping, the 3D modeling. We're getting into the 360 walkthroughs. And you know, next up, I think we start looking at the drone in a box and automation and the ease of this stuff. And it's going to get really scary when you start bringing in the AI and the machine learning, but it's going to be really good stuff. So it's an exciting time to be a part of this.
You know, thanks, Ian and Matt. You know, we're obviously very excited about the future, but we're actually even more excited by what people like you are using, how you're using the technology today. And it's so amazing to see all the different ways that drone data and 360 data can contribute to your projects, can help you operate more safely, more quickly, and more efficiently. And I think for anyone that's in the audience, if you do use DroneDeploy, thank you very much. If you're part of that 25% of the ENR, if you don't use DroneDeploy yet, or you don't use a drone, we'll be very happy to help. Just shoot us a note. Go to dronedeploy.com. We've got hundreds of customers, many of them at this in the construction space, many of them at this event. We would love to help figure out if we could help you and help your business get some of the competitive advantages that this technology offers.
And Mike, thank you as well. I think we're all very excited about the future. Companies like DroneDeploy, what they're going to be bringing to the table. And thank you to everyone in the audience. Thank you to Procore for having us and allowing us to share with you what we've been doing thus far. Thanks, everyone.